squash national championships here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Our first match on block sport number 1 is the girls under 15 final, currently ranked number 2 in the country. From New York, please welcome Mika Gordon. Her opponent is the defending national champion, ranked number 1 in girls under 17. From Connecticut, please welcome Lucy Stefanoni. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 2019 U.S. Squash Championships here in Charlottesville, Virginia, where it's finals day of this very prestigious tournament here in the United States. I'm Chanel Erasmus, and joining me in the booth is Richard Millman. Richard, what an exciting day we have ahead of us today.
Absolutely, Chanel. Athleticism and skill already, and I can't but think that we're going to see a true peak to the end of this tournament today.
Absolutely, and kicking us off here on this glass court, number one, it's Mika Bardin. She's receiving. Both players look very similar, so we're going to try and separate the two for you. But it's Mika Bardin receiving. She's up against defending champion Lucy Stefanoni, who's about to serve. So these two players, girls under 15, getting us started off here today. Richard, we've seen Lucy play throughout the entire weekend here on glass court. She seemed very comfortable playing and competing here this weekend. Nothing seems to faze her.
No, she's got immaculate control, very, very severe, precise attacking shots. She has a great understanding of where her opponent is standing on the court. So I'll be interested to see whether Mika can cope with that severity with her own stroke placement. And the other thing about Mika is she's really quite a good athlete, and that isn't at this age group something that you always see. So it may play in her favor.
Well, she's mostly been ranked number one in the age group throughout the year because Lucy Stefanoni has been playing girls under 17 and girls under 19, where she's been ranked number one in under 17th. So these two have not played each other much this year, and that's also a little bit of a psychological factor. You're now competing in the national championships. You've been number one the entire year, and then the person that's actually in your age group comes back down and is back in the ballpark. So interesting to see if that's a psychological disadvantage for Mika Bardin, or if she's like, hey, bring on the challenge, let's do this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and one hopes that she's excited about the opportunity to play a really great player and prove herself. Mika's certainly made a nice start here. We've seen quite often Lucy absolutely rip through players, and Mika's got herself off to a little start here, and seems to be flowing around the court very nicely.
Just a little nerves coming into play for Stefanoni. As you can see there, it's going for those, as we call, cheap shots into the front of the court, really. Too soon, hasn't settled into this match first. I usually like to use the first game to suss out my opponent, right? Play into the back corners and get myself feeling really comfortable on court. That's not what she seems to be doing right now.
And you can see that she's playing some of these attacking boasts and attacking short shots that have been so successful against her previous round opponents. And with her excellent athleticism, Mika is just covering the court and counter-dropping and retrieving these balls, and it's a little frustrating at the moment.
Well, nothing has lasted more than about 3 points, 3 shots really. So 3-6. Not much that's separating these two players in this first game, really.
I've got to say, Chanel, that I'm very impressed with Mika's body language. She seems to be up for it. She's sharp. I haven't seen any negativity at all so far. So it's a great start and a great showcase for this age group where the United States is really showing some talent.
She strikes the ball really cleanly, smoothly, has a very open face racket. I was watching her warm up a little bit when she was on court, and plays with the racket almost flat on the ground, so is able to get underneath it really well, especially on a court like this, where the ball sort of gets stuck in the back.
You're absolutely right, but the other thing that I'm watching and really liking seeing is she's using the power of her legs very athletically. She's trying to stay on her toes. There's a nice springiness about her movement, and that contributes to her ability to transfer weight through the shot.
Well, she seems a little bit more
comfortable in the back. She's working the points really, whereas I'm feeling like Stefanoni is desperate to bring them in short. It's still early days.
Yes, and we had said earlier, Chanel, that Stefanoni has a very upright position. You know, when she has a loose ball to attack, she executes single shots very, very well. But she doesn't flow in the way that I'd like her to flow. And if she's playing against a player who's retrieving single shots, it can be a problem for her because there isn't enough continuity. It stops her.
That's smarter play. We've seen her try and go short, do a little burst in the front corners there, but decided to just put it in straight into the back, and it was effective.
So, good opening salvos here, and interesting to see Mika Barden with this 9-6 lead, and now game ball. So perhaps a little unexpected, considering that Lucy Stefanoni has been winning golds in the under-17 and under-19 category this year.
I think we're going to see some back and forth battles between these two players on this glass court, just trying to find the height on the front wall. But as we've mentioned, we've seen Lucy Stefanoni every second she gets, she's warming up and practicing her shots, practicing the height. But that's a fantastic first game from Mika Barden, who wins that 11-7. Unexpected, probably because we don't know her as well as we know Lucy Stefanoni, but definitely not unexpected watching her play that first game, Richard.
No, great athleticism and movement, and just an energy and sort of anticipatory hunting attitude, which was quite a pleasure to see.
Well, she's now currently leading 1-0 against the defending champion here this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about pressure, Richard. How much pressure is Lucy Stefanoni under this weekend?
Well, she obviously has created some of the pressure on herself by being successful and going up age groups. As a family, it's pretty tough because they're a famous family. Her older sisters just won a PSA event, and yesterday, unfortunately, had an unexpected loss, so that may put a little more pressure on Lucy to sort of carry the Stefanoni name forwards. But she's an excellent technician in terms of her striking of the ball. As I've said, I'd love to see her flowing a little bit more continuously. But even in that last couple of rallies where she was behind, I noticed that she started moving off the ball a little bit more. And my expectation in this next game is that she may engage in the battle in a more continuous manner.
Absolutely. Well, that's the exact game plan that we'd want to see her execute here. Just get the ball into the back, get the ball straight before you try and work the front of the court. At the moment, it's a little bit aimless, and the shots that, and I don't blame her, right, Richard? She's had fairly easy and comfortable rounds before this where those shots worked perfectly. So she hasn't quite been tested.
So even in that first rally, there was a greater looseness to Stefanoni's movement, and she was actually moving up the court, hunting the next ball, whereas in the first game, she was quite often static after she hit her shot. So you can see there's a bit more of a spring in her step, and she really means business now. But Mika Barden's still moving extremely well and also pushing up the court. You know, she has that lovely bouncy athleticism to her movement. So these girls are, I think, getting ready for a real battle here.
Oh, that's definitely smarter play. And there you see a little bit of that animation from Stefanoni. Not happy with herself after losing that first, but trying to settle into this second game. Again, that's too short, too soon for me, Richard. Not the game plan I would have given her, right? And I'm positive that her coach would have seen that as well. But trying to work the back corners before going short is #1 priority in the second game.
So immediately a little bridgehead formed by Lucy Stefanoni here, and couple of times we've seen better lengths, and Mika kind of struggling to get the ball out. So there's a couple of technical issues when the ball is in the back corner. But there you see her with a very good attacking volley. She doesn't have any problems in the front 3/4 of the court. So for Stefanoni, her game plan has got to be to get Mika to the back of the court, and that's just not deep enough bouncing on the back of the service box. So full depth is the answer. Mika's athleticism means that if you play half length and 3/4 length, she can easily get there.
It's just a back and forth exchange of fairly poor shots in the front of the court, really scrappy. Not what I saw from Barden in that first game. I just hope that she doesn't get sucked into the short game.
Yes, we don't want to see who's the winner of chaos. We'd like to see organisation.
Well, that's a prime example of working the point, right, Richard? There you saw she wasn't playing that backhand drop to win it. She was playing it to move Stefanoni into a difficult position to then take on the next one.
Absolutely. It was interesting when Stefanoni went to retrieve that drop shot. She didn't stutter step to load to lead. She ran into the corner, hit the shot, and was still in the corner when Mika Barden was hitting it down the side wall. So she's obviously not moving off the ball in anticipation of the continuation of the rally. She's playing one shot at a time, and that is no way to build rallies in squash. Fine length there by Mika Barden, who has really got the bit between her teeth in this match.
Oh, she just seems so hungry, Richard. She's playing, it's a combination of playing smart and good quality squash, but then it's also the body language and the determination that's coming through in that match, and that has a huge advantage for her right now against Lucy Stefanoni, who is, in her head, and certainly in ours as well, just looking at the results, is expected to win this.
And you've noticed on a number of occasions that Barden's either played attacking posts or has hit drop shots, and Stefanoni is very, very static. There isn't the dynamic movement and flow that we expect from a player of this level. Perhaps she's just shocked at how mobile and comfortably Barden is picking up her own shots, and she really needs to dig in and engage physically and athletically, because at the moment it isn't very athletic. Little mishit there from Mika Barden, not doing the footwork, trying to swing at a ball without doing the setup. And we've spoken so much, Chanel, about the importance of these excellent technical skills and the practice that these players need to do.
Well, just couldn't quite make the adjustment fast enough. Talk about feet and foot skills, right? Just constantly on your toes, ready to adapt and adjust whenever needed.
So you're noticing quite often Stefanoni is hitting a shot, and when she's completed the shot, she's still in the same place as she was when she started the swing, which means that she's got a long way to travel to get into position. And she's hitting the ball at a speed that often brings the ball to Barden's racket before she's moved at all. And you just can't cover the court that way.
Yeah, that's better quality, Richard. Working the point, as we mentioned, you have to build on a foundation, and you have to build, in my opinion, on the foundation of good length. We've seen that.
Right. And I think what we're seeing here is Stefanoni is very good at attacking from loose ball, but she's not very good at defending from an aggressive attacking ball that takes her out of position. So, you know, this is turning into an interesting contrast of styles. One player who's particularly good when they're in the ascendancy and not so good when they're defending, and another player who perhaps isn't quite as good at attacking from a loose ball but is very good at defending and being under pressure and counter-attacking.
There's that burst, Richard. That's trouble every time. Needs to make the adjustment and not. I don't want her to eliminate that shot. I just want her to play it a little bit more consciously.
And for the right reason at the moment, time, not to win, to work and to hurt. Again, we see great athletic skills from Mika Bard, even under pressure, reaching in to pick up the ball, but probably shouldn't have asked for a let there. It was a quality ball from Stefanoni. So very, very tight end to this second game. Lucy Stefanoni still in it, but Mika Barden threatening to go 2 games to love up. Again, we saw Stefanoni hit the hard drive, but stand on it, and it was in danger of being caught out of position because she was watching her own shot. And again, she's way out of position there, but fortunately is able to track down the next ball.
Well, it works this time.
So quite surprised, quite surprised to see that. I know these girls are in the under 15 age group, but we hadn't had an indication of that level of fatigue. Mika Barden's athleticism had been great up until this point, so I wonder how much of that is psychological, Sian.
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. I think a lot of it does. You sort of dream and sleep and eat squash for however many months, and then of course it all comes down to this one weekend, and so she's had some tough battles getting into this final, and then of course you're playing against someone that you really want to beat.
But she's counterpunched back there with a great drop return of serve, and she's here for game ball again. So again, Stefanoni very late recovering there and mishits a lucky winner there, but the frequency with which she stands on her shot and is late recovering and therefore exposes herself to attacks in the rest of the court.
Well, this is what we're going to see now. Fatigue setting in. Barden is going to go for those shots. She does not want these rallies to go longer than 2-3 shots. So that's an interesting shift for Stefanoni, who now needs to play strategically and extend those rallies. Win or lose this game, make these rallies go as long as you can.
So, I'm not sure what happened there. I thought Barden had caught the ball on her racket and should have given up the point, but they're playing a let ball and it retains game ball for Barden there. Rather strange refereeing and decision making.
Wow, what an interesting second game we have here, Richard. 12-10 for Mika Barden, who got off to a good start. It was very close in the score lines, and then fatigue started setting in rather unexpectedly in our opinions, and that was fairly strange to see from someone that's been so pumped up the entire match, really, but manages to just squeeze out that victory and is now 2-love up. I don't think if this match goes to 5, Lucy Stefanoni is winning this hands down. However, Mika Barden has an opportunity here to close this out in 3.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder how much the coach advice will change Mika Barden's thinking here. She was sort of a little fearful there, almost as if she had foreseen the 2-love lead and then frightened that she was going to throw it away. But again, very interesting to me how often Stefanoni, although she can strike the ball well, has a glaring lack of movement fundamentals, and the choreography of her defense is really quite static and leaving her way out of position and giving Mika Barden opportunities to sometimes win the point simply by retrieving a shot, because the counter drop in defense ends up being an offensive shot because her opponent isn't there to defend.
Game 3, the underdog currently leads 2-0. This is an impressive display of squash from Mika Barden, and as you mentioned, Richard, what does Lucy Stefanoni have to do right now?
Well, she has to engage physically. She needs to defend the court more effectively instead of just trying to play single shots for winners. She has got great stroke execution, but if Mika Barden just picks up the ball and Lucy Stefanoni isn't present, then Mika Barden will win points, very comfortably.
I think it's going to be important for Barden to take the ball early as much as she can. We saw fatigue setting in that second game, and it's tiring volleying, but the rewards are huge. So it's an opportunity for her to get off to a good start here in this third game.
So a lucky Nick serve, but again, Chanel and the missed volley police are on duty, and Lucy just failed to volley the return to serve and saw the ball bounce to the Nick. So, Lucy needs to take some initiative here and get active, because at the moment, the amount of static play that I'm seeing is not indicative of a national champion.
Just hasn't quite found her targets, which is really surprising to me, because I guess it's surprising because we haven't seen her be tested much. So we haven't seen her hit, as you always mentioned, tight from tight, right? Because she's always been in the attacking position, playing off a loose ball. And so right now she's struggling to find those targets when she's being hit a good quality shot. And then that's just not thinking, not playing smart squash. It's your opponent just was on the ground gasping for air, and you go for the easy shot and go and put in a burst that hits a 10. The game plan here is to keep the rallies going.
Keep the rallies going, but also move into position. Like, for instance, she just hit that attacking burst from the back of the court and got beaten by the straight drop because she wasn't present. We're trying to teach these players not to hit and then move, but to move with the shot. So the movement has to start just prior to executing the shot, so that by the time the ball gets to where it's going, you're already waiting for your opponent's next shot. If you're not there, they can do what they like.
That was a little bit better, played and moved off the ball quickly. Be interesting to see if she has a little bit more fire in her step. That's a problem too, right, with nerves, and we obviously can't see into these players' minds, but with nerves too, you can sometimes sort of completely close up, right, and get a little bit static, and I'm certainly one of those. It's sort of, how do you manage those nerves? How do you manage and the ability to just clear your head and really just move your feet?
Well, the thing is, fear shuts down activity. Determination increases activity. So, you have to become active to kill the fear. And that's sometimes hard.
Well, this is actually a smarter play from Stefanoni, has moved Barden into all four corners of that court. She had to work hard, Richard.
Barden, you noticed in that last attempt at a volley reverse corner, didn't set her feet up, tried to play just with her arm, dropped her wrist, caught the top of the tin. But even in that rally, Stefanoni a little bit fortunate that she hit a hard cross court without moving off the ball from the front backhand corner. And if Barden had hit a more accurate volley, she would have been out of the game there. But, I think, fatigue is beginning to count here, and Lucy Stefanoni beginning to have more success. I'm not sure that it's particularly because she's improved her movement. I just think she's being a little more assertive, and the fatigue from Barden is beginning to make her capacity to defend herself go away.
Absolutely. Well, quality is dropping now too, right? Balls are hitting the side wall too soon.
There's Barden on the floor again. Not a good sign for her camp. But if you watch Stefanoni's shots, especially from the front corner, frequently there's a good second after she's hit a shot, she's still standing in the front corner spectating. And if her opponent is able to hit any kind of cross court, she would be out of position and in danger of being hit. So it's happening a lot.
Oh, that ball awarded there, and I think it's more of the fact to go through the interference, possibly, is the referee trying to say that to the players. We often see Stefanoni look out of the glass right towards her. I think her mother's there sitting down and looks a little distressed. That look that you give. So.
But again, how long was it after Stefanoni hit the post in the back of the right-hand corner before she ran to the front of the court? I'm not sure if she's getting a stroke there, which I'm extremely surprised at.
Well, there we see those quick shots into the front of the court. Barden is just trying to save as much energy as she possibly can.
And again, I think if Barden realised that the opportunity was genuinely here and focused less on her own fatigue, she could make this really tough on Lucy Stefanoni. Again, you saw Stefanoni, after she finished the shot and appealed to God and her mother, she was still standing in the same place as she was, so there was no attempt to recover. And what players need to understand is that if you move off the ball as you hit it, the strength of your legs actually lifts the ball up and makes it a much better technical shot.
That was very smart, Richard. The use of height there, we haven't seen that come into play this match just yet, and that's a shot I was seeing her practice earlier in the weekend, but haven't seen her play it just yet, and it's really effective on this court. So I would like to see her vary the pace a little bit, especially when she's in the front of the court as well and going straight down the line. She hits it with a lot of pace, but it lands too short. So that might be part of the strategy here moving forward.
And I think your call of Stefanoni possibly winning in 5 is looking good here, but I think it's less to do with Stefanoni improving her squash and unfortunately a slackening off of Barden's defence. And I'm worried for her that some of that is psychological because she feels tired. This is a point at which that, for instance, with your school team in a very tight match, you might ask a player to try and push through and be successful if they did so.
Absolutely. This is a really crucial moment. It's clear your head, clear your mind of any sort of fatigue. Do not let that be a barrier, and just do your best to stick to the game plan. It's absolutely, what I always tell my team is never settle, ever. Never settle for being too tired, or you're never settle for anything less than your absolute best on that court. And even when fatigue sets through, this is the moments that we train for.
So let's see if Mika Barden can come on with a tough attitude and really take the game to Lucy Stefanoni, or whether Lucy's very, very crisp, severe stroke play can overcome Mika and her own movement deficiencies. You saw immediately the ball lofted, as Chanel earlier pointed out, by Lucy Stefanoni. A very good choice. And of course, that will make up for some of her movement deficiencies by giving her extra time. But straight into the tin, no movement off that ball, all stiff arm there. Very good width and length from Mika Barden. So there's a lot of looking out of the court at the moment from Lucy. Good boast, but it's a nervy kind of two-shot, one-shot rally sequence that we're seeing at the beginning of this fourth game.
Well, Stefanoni is definitely slowed down the pace just a little bit, and from these few points, Barden has upped the pace just a little bit. So, interesting combination here. And what I'm interested to see is how Barden reacts to those lofted balls and the use of height. But because she likes to volley, so if Stefanoni doesn't hit them perfectly, she's going to be penalized for it.
You're right. I'm also seeing in the last two rallies twice now where Stefanoni has hit a decent attacking ball to the front of the court, which Barden has just managed to push back with some good athleticism. And then Stefanoni has gone to the front of the court to try and get to the next ball, and there's no athleticism, and she's simply hit the ball into the tin because she hasn't pushed back off the ball as she's hit it. So it's a real problem.
It's really good quality down the line. That's all getting your feet in the right position. And it's a tough shot to play from the front of the court. It has to be hit well, and you have to clear out of the ball well enough so that it doesn't come right back to you. So she hits that, and she's on the tee, Richard, if you would look at the way that Barden moves off that shot. This is going to hurt her.
So it was a good rally, and a couple of times Stefanoni did manage to move back as she hit the shot there, and so she wasn't out of position when Barden returned. And she also used a variety of shots to twist and turn Barden around the court. So, yeah, quite a debilitating rally, and we've seen earlier in the match that when Barden gets tired, that psychologically the fatigue almost doubles the effect.
Good quality, really nice tight against the wall, but again, didn't quite make the effort to clear and just assumed that that was going to be a winner. That's a really good shot.
Yeah, we try and teach players what we call rally-centric thinking instead of shot-centric thinking. Rally-centric thinking, the person is thinking big picture about a continuous flow. Shot-centric, it tends to be one shot at a time before thinking about what happens next. And although the individual shots that she plays are excellent, Stefanoni does have this kind of very staccato, one at a time type attitude towards the flow of the game.
Well, there's that beautiful volley we're talking about, right? So good at that. Likes to take the ball early and hits it really crisply.
And again, we saw that the late departure from Stefanoni from the first shot made her very late to try and retrieve that volley. And it was a good volley, but it was simply a length volley, which shouldn't give enough time to go back and play that shot. But a mistake from Barden has brought Stefanoni right back into it. So, you know, it's a really interesting conundrum, as I said earlier. The two players with slightly different issues, and Stefanoni's toughness and determination, you know, when she's striking the ball, the severity is causing a real problem for Barden. The only time that she's getting into trouble is when she's leaving herself out of position.
No let. It's a tough call, Richard. It's again, I'm just attesting it to playing the ball, right? Move through that interference and play the ball, but then you can have the same argument right there as well. She had clear access and got given a let, so I'm curious.
But there again, we saw how upright Stefanoni was, and really a half-length ball from Barden played at pace resulted in a very poor boast error from Stefanoni, just because of the lack of dynamic movement and athleticism. So, you know, certainly this summer, my advice would be to really start working on the fundamentals of movement technique. Her swing is fine, but her flow isn't dynamic enough to play at this level. And she is certainly capable of playing at an extremely high level, but you can't play squash without moving. Key moments here.
Oh, that's a great shot, Richard. That's superb squash.
No match ball.
Match ball for Mika Barden.
So quite extraordinary play here from Mika Barden. Disappointment for Stefanoni, but I think when she reviews this, she will see that her ball striking is very nice from situations where the ball is loose, but her athleticism, her organization for recovery, all of those things when she's under pressure leave her exposed and stranded. So, fantastic win for Mika Barden. Her athleticism and her elasticity on the court really making a big difference and allowing her to counterpunch a number of the very good shots from Stefanoni. So, anyway, we're going to hand over now to Chanel.
Congratulations, a lot of really exciting stuff happening this weekend and an emotional day for you, of course. How does it feel winning your national champion? Congratulations, Mika. We're really proud of you and we look forward to seeing your future in your squash. Mika Barden. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be getting the boys under 15 final underway shortly.